Here we go.
Welcome to the Council of Dudes podcast. A podcast that is here to help you tap into and follow and find your own personal golden thread. Not golden shower, golden thread. So each month we're going to have an arc, a theme, if you will, that is centered around self-help, personal development, and the like. And you want to call it enlightenment, you want to call it self-actualization, whatever you want to call it. But each month there's going to be a theme with the podcast, along with the newsletter, the men's group that are facilitated, and the guests themselves. So this month's guest is Francis Volpe, who is one of the founders of Why Not You Media. And why not you? The question alone poses a lot of internal thought, for me at least, right? It's simple, yet it's effective. It tugs on something inside of you that allows you to question, why not you? It allows you to go into the deeper thought of the self, which I'm all about, a rabbit hole. And in the why not you arc comes to other simple yet effective slogans, taglines, whatever you want to call them, that rise up that internal question. So you have Nike's Just Do It, which is a very simple idea and simple concept, harder in practice, but simple in what it's saying to you is just do it. Just, you have something you want to achieve, you have a goal, you have something out there that you want to go after, just do it. You want to lose weight, just do it. You want to start a business, just do it. Very simple, very effective. The other one that comes to mind is the New York State lottery. Hey, you never, I don't think it's just New York State, I'm not sure, but hey, you never know. Right? This small little nugget of thought that gets planted inside your mind that if you play this lotto ticket, if you give them your X amount of dollars, you never know. Which there is this this elusive feeling that, yeah, you're right, I never know. Like, I really don't know. How do I know that I'm not going to be a lotto winner? And you don't know. You don't know. This wire's annoying me. There we go. Much better. I'll have to edit that part out. But you don't know. You don't know if you're going to be a lotto winner. Chances are very low that you're going to win the lottery. But, hey, you never know. And that whole idea of, hey, you never know, also lends itself to the idea of potential opportunity within yourself. So, all that being said, hey, you never know, just do it, and why not you, all offer an opportunity to become better, to step on a path of more alignment, and to become a better version of yourself, which this podcast is all about. It's about finding and following that golden thread. How do you find and follow that golden thread? Well, one thing that comes up that prevents you from following the golden thread, one thing that may come up on your journey towards self-actualization, towards betterment, towards whatever it is, whatever goal you have. I think a guy just drove by with a Rocketeer mask on and a red jacket on an electric bike. That guy wins the day. One thing that can take you off of your path towards becoming a better version is exactly this: self-sabotage. Now, what is self-sabotage? Now, based off of Psychology Today, as we pull this here, self-sabotage is when people do or do not do things that block their success or prevent them from accomplishing their goals. It can happen consciously or subconsciously. Self-sabotaging behaviors can affect our personal or professional success as well as our mental health. Lots there to unpack and lots to dive into. I've personally have interfaced with self-sabotage in a multitude of different ways. And one that comes up for me that was really pivotal was when I was first going to do the Council of Dudes men's group meeting, the first one At that time, a friend of mine had reached out and said, you should do a men's group. And I knew nothing about men's groups, how to facilitate them, where to do it. I knew nothing about any of this stuff. The unknown. And in that unknown, a lot of fear came up. And the day of, I had reached out to a bunch of guys who we had deeper conversations, bigger conversations, and there's probably about 20-something guys that were supposedly coming, and 20-something guys did end up showing up. And I was pulling in to get coffee, and the voice in my head came up. And the voice in my head said, what are you doing? You're going to embarrass yourself. You don't know what you're doing. Quit while you're ahead. Don't do this. Don't do this. This is going to embarrass you. This is not what you do. You don't know what you're doing. Cut the shit. Call everyone. Tell them that you have the shits. That was an actual thought that I had, was call everyone and tell them you have the shits, because everyone excuses the shits and the shits can just come on. So call everyone, tell them you have the shits, call it off, cancel this is a bad idea. And in that moment, I had a decision to make. I had to either acquiesce to what was happening and just placate to the fear, which that's where it rooted from, fear of embarrassment, fear of, being perceived as, who do you think you are to lead a men's group? So that's the fear part of it. Or, and which is what I did, I could acknowledge it. And I think that's a big part of the definition, is the conscious or subconscious, to bring the subconscious conscious, right? To bring those thoughts that are happening inside of your mind, whether you're aware of them or not, and to bring them to the forefront of the conversation and invite them to the table. Invite those thoughts, as uncomfortable as they may be, invite them to the table. So in this example, the thought and the fear was, you're going to embarrass yourself, X, Y, and Z. I sat with that in the parking lot and said to the voice that was telling me that I was going to embarrass myself, that thank you. First, I thanked it. I had to acknowledge its existence and what it was trying to do. What was the fear? What was the self-sabotage trying to do? It was trying to protect me. At the end of the day, it was trying to protect me. And I acknowledged it. I thanked it. And I said, but that's no longer serving me. That's not going to serve me. And 6 years later, countless meetings, countless impact on guys' lives. Here we are. Still moving forward with the Council of Dudes, now bringing it into the podcast world. And had I placated to the fear, all of this would not have happened. And I would not have discovered my own personal golden thread, which we'll dive into the depths and the meaning of the golden thread on a later episode. But after one of the men's group meetings, I went home. I looked at my wife and I said, I feel so fulfilled. Right here in the center of my chest, I feel so good. And I remember being in the meeting and seeing almost this trail go throughout the space, almost like Donnie Darko. And after some serendipitous videos and podcasts and things like that and reading, I came to learn about the golden thread and ultimately the golden shadow, which leads you to the ultimate version of yourself. The self-sabotage can manifest itself in multiple ways. It's not just that voice in your head, but it can actually play out in different ways. And I wrote down a bunch of them: procrastination, negative self-talk, low self-esteem, fear, gaslighting, which apparently is a big one, setting goals too high, overspending, undermining your own values. These are being late to things. These are all just humanistic expressions of self-sabotage, which ultimately are humanistic expressions of fear. When you self-sabotage, when you show up or don't show up in a way that goes against the person you want to be, when you allow your limiting beliefs to keep you small, you are, in a way, self-sabotaging. Let's just take being late, right? Being late to something. if that goes against of what you actually want to do, which I think most people would not want to be late to something. I think most people want to be on time. But there are some people, and they start to identify as this, well, I just can't get there on time. That's not who I am. I'm always late. And that becomes your personality, right? That becomes who you are. That's how you identify in the world. I'm just the person that's always late. Sorry, that's who I am. Now, that is a self-sabotaging mindset. That is a self-sabotaging belief system. That is a self-sabotaging action, because you are in one breath saying, or idealistically, I would like to be to places on time. I'd like to show up on time. This is who I'd like to be. Yet, your actions go against the actual perfect version of you, ideal version of you. So in setting the expectation of I want to be the person on time, by not showing up on time, you are now reassuring the negative self-talk. You're reassuring the version of you that you don't want to be, and you're also solidifying that person, and it's becoming part of your personality and a trait, and that just is who I am. I'm always late. Nothing I could do about it. This is me. So those are small, expressions of self-sabotage, but where is the root of self-sabotage, which is really what you have to get to? What you have to get to, and you have to reverse engineers. And I think this is across the board with so much of, self-actualization and personal development, is really getting to the root of the problem, getting to the root of the trauma. Where are these things showing up in your life on a humanistic way, right? On the everyday fronts. And then what is the actual root of that? And how can you prevent that? Or how can you analyze that? How can you sit with that discomfort and allow yourself to move past it? Now, if you were to sit into any self-sabotage situation, whatever it may be, however it's being expressed, you have to sit, you don't have to, but you get my point there, and reverse engineer. Where is this coming from? Where were other scenarios and other times where this presented itself? How did I move forward then versus how do I move forward now? Or how would I like to move forward? If that voice that said, hey, don't do this, you're going to embarrass yourself, is showing up, when was another time that I had that same feeling? When was another time that voice showed up in that way and expressed itself? And maybe not in the, I'm going to be facilitating a men's group. Obviously, I never had done that before prior to that moment. But where were other times where I had that poor relationship with that voice in my head that in some regards was trying to keep me safe and comfortable and inside the bird's nest, but in other cases is setting me up to fail and not allowing me to go out and pursue something that I ultimately really want to be doing, and ultimately am still doing, and ultimately am going to be doing forever? Had I placated to that voice, we wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be here. This whole place wouldn't exist. The lives that has impacted, the conversations that I've seen, me finding and following my own personal golden thread, now allowing and empowering people to do the same thing, would not be happening. So it's important to take the information, hear the voice, like I said, sit down with it, pour a cup of coffee with it, and analyze it and sit with it and dissect it and chew on it and look at it from different angles, but also recognize where it showed up for you in your life in the past. Was it something that your parents said? Was it something that a spouse said, a sibling said? Was it something that was planted inside of you at some point that now is showing up again and again and again? And I assure you that unless you address it at the root cause, unless you address it at the core of it, unless you peel back that onion, it will continue to show up in different ways and express itself in different ways, sometimes in the same way. Sometimes it's going to be that this is who I am as a person. That's how I identify. I'm just the person that's always late, and that's who I am. But in other times, it's going to mold and adapt to the world and the life you're living. It's going to adjust, and it's going to take different form in your mind and in your actual 3D space. It's going to morph. It's going to metamorphosize in your life, and it's going to find a way to present itself subconsciously or consciously. So unless you do the reverse engineering, unless you do the work and the questioning of the actual expression of it, I don't want to show up to places late. I want to be on time. I want to do this men's group. I want to do this. Yet inside, there is this resistance that you're going to come across in all phases of life. There is this resistance that is keeping me small, that is telling me no, that is telling me this is a bad idea. And unless you're able to reverse engineer that and sit with that, as uncomfortable as it may be, because who knows what's going to come up? That's the unknown. And that's the unknown that leads you forward, and you have to interface with it. And that's the unknown that you have to move past when the self-sabotaging voice comes up. That voice is going to come up. Oh, don't do that. That's a bad idea, because it's the unknown. But ultimately, what is an unknown? It's all fucking unknown, right? We just live in a constant unfolding of the unknown. So, if you are experiencing self-sabotage, if you're coming across resistance in your pursuits and your goals, sit with it. Find someone to sit with you on in it, right? Be present with someone and allow that reverse engineering to happen in real time and gain insight and perspective. And there's so much literature and books and podcasts, and there's just tons of resources out there for you in order to overcome self-sabotage. But that is this month's arc, self-sabotage. This month's guest is Francis Volpe, co-founder of Why Not You Media, co-founder of co-host of Snack Time, and we're going to do more of these arcs, but that will be in the newsletter. That will be this month's Council of Dudes men's group. Will be all around self-sabotage. How do we self-sabotage? How do we prevent self-sabotage? How do we interface with self-sabotage? And that will be in the newsletter, the men's group, the podcast, and hopefully some other things. So if you're enjoying the podcast, do me a favor. Of course, subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're getting it. Click the notification button, leave a comment down below, and of course, spread the word and tell a friend. That is it. Have a great day. Until next time, much love. Peace.